Thanks for joining us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Lim Nakrin. Okay, so getting to some of the top stories that we're following right now, a major headache for several people, not only drivers, but people who live in a neighborhood around a water main break. I want to show you some video from the scene here. So this is Chamblee Dunwoody Road, and it was actually shut down and has been shut down in both directions, and obviously a major impact on the morning commute. That's the first thing. And I should say the areas affected are between St. Andrew's Circle and Dunwoody Walk in Dunwoody. But even more than that, the people who live in this neighborhood are being impacted. In particular, they're so frustrated. They say this is not the first time it's happened. They say they need a solution that actually solves this problem once and for all. Because they say it's happened actually on several occasions, and it's turned this quiet street into basically a river. Atlanta News First reporter Joshua Skinner went out into that community, and he actually spoke with neighbors who live right next to that water main. Let's listen.
Yeah, they say they want a solution that solves this problem here, because on several occasions, this quiet residential street has turned into a river. When Norman McLean wrote "A River Runs Through It," it's unlikely this is what he was talking about.
We've seen this water main break several times, at least 3 or 4.
Marvin Boaz has spent much of his life on Chamblee Dunwoody Road.
45 years.
And a river has more or less run through his property over the past half-decade.
They dig it up, fix it, cover it up, and a few years later it breaks again.
Residents along Chamblee Dunwoody awoke to the sight of sirens Monday morning. As water poured through the street, roads were closed, drivers forced to find alternate routes, and pedestrians wet their toes. For Boaz, it's exasperating.
They keep patching it, and it breaks 15 feet further up.
Other residents were a bit more curt.
You know, as a taxpayer, you just kind of think that maybe they'd get it right.
By mid-morning, watershed management arrived and shut off the leak.
It'd be interesting to see if the private sector did this repair, if it would actually be fixed permanently versus, you know, the county fixing it.
Boaz is more understanding.
The pipe is, I have no idea, older than 45 years.
But he too hopes a solution is found, maybe one that's a bit more long-term, or a river doesn't run through it.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
And as you can see, a backhoe there pulling up pavement. They've already pulled up pavement even further down the road where they're using pumps to try and get the water out so they can find exactly where that leak is and fix it. And hopefully that happens soon. We were just speaking with residents not too long ago who say they have been without water since 6 this morning. Reporting into Cobb County, Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First.
So a lot of frustration for people who live there, that's for sure. Thank you so much, Josh. Okay, so here's a more positive story for drivers especially. We're talking about the Mount Vernon Bridge. It is reopened once again. Let me show you some footage from the scene there. And obviously, you probably know if you travel in this area, it has been closed for months because of construction. It runs over I-285. But definitely a big relief, especially for drivers in the Sandy Springs area. Atlanta News First reporter Brittany Ford has more.
Well, this has been a construction mess for more than 6 months, and now that bridge has officially reopened, and it has a lot of drivers smiling. The Mount Vernon Bridge has been closed for over 6 months now. And Monday, drivers are finally able to ditch the detours as the project reached completion.
We didn't expect with the volume of work they've been doing that it's going to be complete on time, but sure enough.
The bridge, located along I-285 in Sandy Springs, has had its fair share of bad luck. Back in September, a large truck clipped the bridge, forcing it to close down altogether. And just last week, a similar situation while it was still under construction when a dump truck clipped the bridge, causing a massive traffic backup. People in the area relieved the headache is gone.
It was
very, very difficult.
devastating. I do have to say the only thing that we will miss is no traffic on this road. It was almost like a pedestrian highway.
We could walk in the middle of the street every morning.
And looking forward to a little more peace and quiet in their neighborhood.
We've been experiencing this construction for so long, and it has been like house rattling, and We are very excited. It's done, finally.
Now, GDOT says there will be additional construction here over the next couple of weeks as they pave and complete the sidewalk. In Sandy Springs, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
And thanks so much to Brittany for that report. Big relief for people, especially in the Sandy Springs area. Okay, let's talk about the latest with the YSL trial. Obviously, it's something that we are dedicated to covering for you. I want to bring you live inside the courtroom so you can just see you're not missing anything right now because it is a lunch break that's happening. However, this is a live look inside the courtroom, and we just pointed at the courtroom seal when we, when there's a lunch break because, we don't want to inadvertently show something that is off the record, that is when court is not in session. When court goes into session, then it's officially on the record, and then we can broadcast to you ethically. So I do want to show you some video from a little bit earlier in the trial, and that is, of course, Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, and that was his attorney, Brian Steele. And here's the prosecution, of course, as well. But the latest that's been happening there is a former Atlanta police detective who worked in the department's gang unit. By the way, that's Judge Earl Glanville. But a former Atlanta police detective who worked in the department's gang unit has been continuing her testimony today. And last week, this witness had claimed that rapper Young Thug's record label is a criminal street gang. Obviously, that is what the prosecution has been arguing and trying to prove here. And obviously, the defense says that's not true. They say YSL's not a gang. It's just a record label, Young Stoner Life. So, there's been a lot of extensive testimony going through individual crimes, element by element, and essentially trying to prove that these crimes are related to or basically done in furtherance of a criminal enterprise. And hence the massive RICO charges, RICO trial. But let me show you back in here live. As soon as that trial gets back on the record, back in session, you're going to see it. All you have to do is go to our secondary stream, what we call internally our secondary stream. It's our special event stream here on Atlanta News First Plus. And you can watch our gavel-to-gavel coverage. We're going to be covering that trial start to finish right here on Atlanta News First Plus. I do have legal analysts joining me several times a week, and we break down what's been happening in the trial. I do have an attorney joining me tomorrow, and we're going to discuss that among other things. So stay here for all the latest on that. Okay, let me tell you about what's happening in Southwest Atlanta. This is really a tragic story. 2 children actually shot. Let me show you some video from the scene here. And it's really quite a heartbreaking situation. But Atlanta police are just trying to figure out what led to this shooting. It actually happened last night, and like I say, 2 children ended up being shot. And it was in this Southwest Atlanta neighborhood off of Campbellton Road. Atlanta News First reporter Rebecca Schramm is outside Children's Health Care of Atlanta at Eggleston with more.
At last check, the boys were in stable condition. It's unclear how serious their wounds were. This must have been a terrifying situation for them. In the Arlington Estates neighborhood of Southwest Atlanta, everything seems normal on Omaha Drive. This is the house where police say 2 children, both boys, ages 11 and 14, were shot.
One of the juveniles had actually left the location by way of a vehicle and went to a place of safety around the corner on Campbellton Road.
That's the gas station where someone, possibly the person who drove him there, called 911. Police officers responded and found one of the boys wounded. Their investigation then led to the home where they located the other boy. Both were in stable condition when paramedics rushed them to the hospital. Police say it appeared they did not shoot each other, but rather that this was an isolated domestic-related incident.
So we have 1 male adult person of interest detained at the time.
No one answered the door at the home Monday morning. It did not appear anyone was home. We're working to find out if the man police detained was arrested. We'll bring you more as updates come in. At Children's Health Care of Atlanta at Eggleston, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
And thanks so much to Rebecca Schramm for that report. And as Rebecca said, we're going to keep following the latest on that story, including the status of those children and how they're recovering, and also whether any arrests have been made. So keep it right here on Atlanta News First Plus. But also, I would really encourage you to just download our free Atlanta News First mobile news app. Again, it's completely free to download in your Apple and Google Play Store, but we send out alerts whenever there are developments on major news stories that we're following, whenever there's breaking news, first alert weather, something that we feel that is really important for you to know. So again, that's free in your Apple and Google Play Store, our Atlanta News First app. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.